Well, it's that time. I've been promising to bake a loaf of bread utilizing your flour storage. In this recipe, you're going to need 4 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of milk of your choice, whether that be 2% or whole milk. Oil, you're going to need about 3 tablespoons of oil. Sugar, you're going to need some sugar, you're going to need some salt, and you're going to need some yeast. So let's get going. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a mixer of this type, you're going to want to use the hook attachment that came with it. This is your bread attachment. This recipe calls for 4 cups of flour, 3 of which are already in the mixer, the 4th one going in. Notice I level off each cup of flour. Next in the recipe, you're going to have all your dried ingredients. Yeast. You're going to want 2 tablespoons of this, or I should say teaspoons, not tablespoons. 1, 2. 2 teaspoons. 1 3/4 teaspoons of salt, normal tablespoon salt. 1 teaspoon. Half. And 1/4. Make up your 1 3/4. Next, you need 3 tablespoons of oil of your choice. I've already put 2 in there, so we have 3. Now, as for the oil, I normally save that for last. That way I don't have to utilize this tablespoon again, because it gets kind of messy, as you can imagine. This oil would have worked just perfectly. And yes, you could use unsalted butter. We're now going to add 1 large scrambled egg. Next, and the final ingredient, is warm milk. You want 1.5 cups, but first we want to turn on the mixer on low. And just mix up some of those ingredients. As I said, 1.5 cups of warm milk, but we're only going to place approximately half of it in the mixer. Let it incorporate a little bit. Once you start to see that it's firming up and pulling some of the flour away from the sides, feel free to add the remaining milk. I'll come back when she's ready to add the final half of the milk. It should only be about 30 seconds. Adding the final half of the milk. And what you're going to do is just mix this for approximately 5 minutes, or until the ball of dough pulls away from the glass. I'll see you in about 5 more minutes. The dough is about a minute or 2 away from being pulled away from the mixer. Just waiting for it to just all pull away from the glass sides. And in your case, you might be using a mixer with a metal mixing bowl. the same fundamentals. Once the dough pulls away from the sides, give it another few seconds thereafter, and she's ready to be put into the first rise. Dough has pulled away from the glass sides, and actually the bottom is getting cleaned up. Notice that there's no dried crumbs on the bottom. So I'm going to give it another 60 seconds to knead, and that'll build the gluten in the bread. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to prepare another glass mixing bowl or a bowl of your choice, lightly greased. And you're going to want to basically form this into a ball. I'll do that for you now. You're just going to want to lightly form it into a ball. It doesn't need to be anything special. And what you can do is actually bend it upon itself. So all the sides go inwards. And then you have a nice little ball. Place this into your mixing bowl that is lightly greased. Cover it with saran wrap for about 2 hours until it rises and doubles in shape. For me, I'm fortunate enough, I'm just going to put it back into my mixing bowl because I have a lid that fits it and will hold the temperature in place from the warm milk that we used. So I'll see you in about 2 hours, and we'll turn this on. Actually, we'll turn the camera on and document that it has doubled in size. See you in about 2 hours. Okay, what we're working with now is an 8-inch bake pan. This happens to be stoneware. It is lightly greased. I don't really care for stoneware for breads. For bread, I like the metal pans. But this is what I have now. And as a rule of thumb, if you're forced to use stoneware for your bread, then I would actually bake it for about a minute or two longer than the recipe requires. These stone pans are good for like pound cakes and banana breads and whatnot. I don't really care for them for breads, but again, we're going to use this. I've used it in the past. Comes out good as long as you know to just bake it for about a minute or two longer. We're now going to turn out our bread. And as you can see, it has more than doubled. So when turning out bread, just slightly peel it away from the bowl that you're using, whether it be glass or metal bowl. Boom. Putting that aside, I normally like to line up my bread pan so I get an idea of how wide to stretch the dough. I'm not pushing down all the way into the counter. I'm just knocking down some of the air bubbles. I'm kind of flattening it out, making sure it's relatively the same thickness all the way around. And it's okay to shake it like this and shake it like that. The dough is actually quite strong at this point. What I like to do is I'll actually fold in each end just like this, just to clean up that end. Boom. And then I'll roll it. Not fold it, literally roll it. And as I'm rolling it, I'm pinching down. Flip it around here. And then I'm going to pinch. All I'm doing is pinching that seam. And then you're going to just roll it. Just a couple of times. I'm very lightly touching it as I'm rolling. And what I'm looking for is any areas thicker, I'm going to press slightly harder as I'm rolling on that area, forcing that dough into the thinner areas. But this loaf is good. You're going to take it, throw it into your lightly greased pan like so. Cover it up with saran wrap and let it rise. When it's about a ½ an inch, 3/4 of an inch above the edge of the pan, you know it's time to put it in the oven. Right after you put the saran wrap on the bread loaf, waiting for its second rise, you're going to preheat your oven, 350 degrees. Well, it's been about 32 minutes. And remember what I said. The recipe calls to bake it at 350 for 30 minutes, but if you use a stone pan, give it an extra minute or two. After you take it out of the oven, brush some butter on the crust, and then allow the bread to cool in the baking pan for about 5 to 10 minutes. After 5 to 10 minutes, get it out of the baking pan, put it on the wire rack, and allow it to cool for about an hour. From there on in, feel free to enjoy. My next video is going to display grinding down whole wheat berries to make flour, and then making a whole wheat bread loaf. Hope to see you in that video. Take care. Thank you for watching.